while we're incorporating Soundtrap, whatever we do in the class is the show. The kids are proud of it, and they're proud of the actual development of the work instead of the end product. Just to give you a layout of our school district, Newport Mesa is between two different cities, Costa Mesa and Newport Beach. So we have a total of 22 elementary schools and 7 high schools. So we're using Soundtrap as a portion of our elementary general music curriculum. So all of our teachers teach TK through 6 general music. So we bought seats specifically for our 6th graders. So we wanted to create that bridge where the 6th graders had something unique that is middle school level and unit based versus the general music curriculum. And what we realized coming out of the pandemic is that, yes, our instrumental education was great, but there was still kids missing out. And we felt that digital music creation would be a great tool to actually engage those students that we kept missing. And so far, we've actually seen that engagement increase, and it ends up being a favorite unit for a lot of my music teachers. In the past, individual teachers would actually grants here and there for digital materials for students. And so what we realized is how many of us were either using Soundtrap or using another digital media, and it was very hodgepodge. And 3 of our music teachers, they actually did a training with Shed the Music and Soundtrap and fell in love with us. Just the music creation aspect in the curriculum, it's always been performance, performance. I'm like, hey, how about creation? And when it comes to our standards or framework, and I said, actually, we really should do it for all of our 6th graders and have seats for all of our 6th graders because this is a great tool for them. And so I worked it out with my district, and we were able to buy enough seats for every 6th grader. One of the moments I was observing in classroom last year, and it was one of our newer teachers, and she was doing a Soundtrap project, and I loved how it engaged the students. When a lot of the special needs kids is completely full in when it comes to the soundtrack, and they were not only were they fully in and creating their own sounds and their own mixes of songs, they were actually analyzing each other's music and engaging with the students one to one on, oh, that sounds really cool. I like that drum beat. Oh, what drum beat is that? So I can incorporate that. The fact that every student was engaged. And we didn't always have that when it was purely instrumental. In some ways, we had to like, hey, encourage kids. We didn't have to encourage kids with Soundtrack. They were just all in it. And then, like, the icing on the cake was when kids came back and said, oh, Miss Fairbanks, you have to check out this song I just wrote. I was doing this with my buddies at home because they have one-on-one Chromebooks, so they can actually share and comment on each other's works and add to each other's works. And I think that's the beauty of it is when those kids can expand outside of the classroom. I think part of it is because the kids are so digitally centered, it ends up connecting that music class with the gen ed classes because they're all using their one-on-one Chromebooks in every class now. So you have that easy tool for them. And Soundtrap is accessible. And so once we teach it in the classroom and give them the tools to create, they find as many things as they possibly can to even add and even teach us. It just ends up being, it speaks to their language. And when they listen to current music, they're like, oh, I hear that guitar riff because it transcends genres and it's practical to them and in their own, like, in their own personal language, I think that is part of the success of it. For a lot of my teachers, especially my frequent users, they actually see better engagement instrumentally because the kids know Soundtrap, because they will record themselves on their own instruments. So it actually reinforces what they're already doing in that instrumental unit to the Soundtrap unit. And we had some challenges implementing Soundtrap because you have the different camps. Should these kids be on devices? And we need to keep traditional. And I don't think it's a replacement for anything traditional. And I think that is the biggest feedback I've gotten from my teachers is that they do see more instrumental engagement because they know how to use the digital and can actually and implement in both tools. The focus ends up being celebration of development versus the performance. And so I do think it does change that aspect. And I would say pre-soundtrap as a lot of our focus, even though it's standards based, but there's always that pressure to have a show. Whereas while we're incorporating soundtrack, whatever we do in the class is the show. In everything they do, whether it's a 2-second song or whatever, is publishable. And the kids are proud of it and they're proud of the actual development of the work instead of the end product. And so I do think that focus on development is helpful now to my teachers, especially to really think about the skills and the development and the process of creating music versus the performance. One of the things that Soundtrap does with students that I've noticed is the strengthening of the listening skills. Um, the kids are actually listening to music at a deeper level because of the process they're utilizing with Soundtrap. I would say they're able to formulate a critique using terminology with that. And so it creates that critical thinking aspect of for just listening to music in general. And so those are the like the celebration moments because I can tell that they're really listening in detail. And so it's a huge thing. I have heard from classroom teachers mentioning how the kids have created some fun songs, activities, and even mini podcasts in their classrooms utilizing Soundtrap. And they were excited about it. I discovered through several sixth grade teachers that the kids are actually utilizing Soundtrack on their own, which is, I think, is extremely exciting and wonderful. And it makes me happy because it's the kids spearheading it. And it's not just transpires from what is happening in a music classroom. One of the biggest things that I learned about utilizing Soundtrap is that it transpires subject matters. So we bought seats for our sixth grade however, it's a great tool for the classroom teacher to reinforce. It's a great tool for the music teacher to reinforce their learning. It's a great tool for the history teacher. So the youth is so universal and the creative process is so important for our kids to be able to not only critically think and analyze and synthesize, but you can do that not just in music. You can do that in all subject matters. And I would say, as an advocate for Soundtrap, is that this tool is worth it just because it helps with all children in all types of learning. And it's not just a music app, but it is an expressive tool. that can be utilized in all subject matters. So it's worth it to have it district wide just because of that simple fact. And you have very few platforms that can transcend all subject matters. When we first started Soundtrap, I had half were gung ho, the other half was hesitant. Now that we've done it for a couple of years, I do have everyone really going for it and doing it and embracing it and finding joy in the process. And that's a good thing. The secret sauce is probably, well, the trainings in Soundtrap has been extremely helpful, and the tips they've gained from that, and us regularly talking about it, practicing it, sharing our best practices, and really getting those who are hesitant more comfortable. And once they got comfortable and we saw the students utilizing it, that created an excitement for them to actually pursue more. And for districts who are starting off and you have some that are hesitant, I would just say, just keep doing the work, because I think the more training, the more familiarity, the more utilization. When everyone started sharing their best practices and how easy they were to do in class, they're like, "Oh, I guess I can do this." And I think that's what sold them into finally tipping their toes into the waters. And once they were able to do a project and see the kids' reactions and how excited they were, then they were sold.